Garden Style is Going Green, coming up next. Hi, I'm Alan Smith. Welcome to Garden Style, a show about unique ways to grow, cook, and design your world. Now, we've all become more conscientious about, well, our carbon footprint and our impact on the environment. So in today's show, we're focusing on all things green. Today we'll visit 3 locations where sustainability is the primary focus. Arkansas Natural Produce in Malvern, America in Bloom in Fayetteville, and 18 Broadway in Kansas City. You see, each are doing their part to help the environment and promote a greener lifestyle. So stay tuned because we get started right after the break. Well, Jay, that was quite a group you had here today.
That was a record group, the biggest we've ever had.
Really? What do you think they were the most interested in as people interested in farming?
I think they were most interested in, could we really make a living at this year-round, and how are we able to do it year-round?
Right, and you do. This goes on year-round.
52 weeks of the year. We never take a break.
You're either planting or you're harvesting.
We plant twice a week, every week without exception, and we harvest several times a week.
Now, Jay, you've always taken a, well, eco-friendly or natural approach to everything that you farm here.
Yeah, we have. We've been out here at this location since 1999, and we have managed to grow all these crops that you see in here without the use of any chemical pesticides or preservatives or fertilizers. Everything in here is a natural product.
You know, even though it's 30 degrees outside, and you look around in here, it doesn't look like it's the middle of January.
They are heated, but we really just try to keep them from freezing. We're not really growing tomatoes or something where you have to expend a lot of energy. We just heat them on those cold nights to try to keep the crop from freezing.
So in this period of time, this sort of winter period into early spring, you're growing cool weather crops in here.
We're growing cool weather crops, but actually this is the middle of January, and just yesterday we pulled out the last of our big pepper crops. And we still have some tomatoes. So it's actually pretty amazing that you can do these things.
So you're really stretching the season.
We're stretching the season as far as we can, and we'll start as early as we can.
Now, Jay, this is really not a conventional farm or a produce farm, because here, I mean, everything is under plastic.
It's kind of like outdoor gardening and so in the summertime, we have to have these big fans to pull air through these houses constantly.
Yeah, to keep it cool.
You have to keep it cool. You have to keep it ventilated.
And you're planting directly in the soil. Now, albeit soil that's been amended, you amend this regularly with fresh compost, I assume.
Yeah, these particular houses are just nothing but compost. And that allows us to grow these beautiful crops without having to deal with as many weeds.
What are the other advantages of having this under plastic or inside?
Some of the big advantages would be protection from the elements. You know, we're able to protect our crops from the rain and hail,
sure,
high winds. And then, of course, is protection from the insects. It's not like we don't have any insects in here, but we have a whole lot less.
I bet, yeah. I bet. And what about disease control? Do you have is there some benefits there as well?
There are some benefits with disease control. It's not like we don't have any disease, but you just have a lot less. And then the plants that we grow in here that typically in Arkansas in the summertime would only last a few weeks, in here might last many months or even a year.
Yeah, so you're extending that crop life as we talked about earlier.
That's right now.
Yeah. Jay, with all the interest in people wanting to know where their food is grown and how their food is grown, it certainly impacted your business, I would think.
You know, Alan, I think our business has grown every single year since we've been out here.
That's fantastic.
And now more and more people want to know where their food comes from. You know, they want to know who grows and touches their food.
Yep.
And that's become really important. And then also they want to know that their food is grown naturally, without a lot of unnecessary additives, ingredients, and poisons. And I think that has been very important to our business. And it's important to us as growers and farmers as well.
Jay, not only is it great that you're growing all this beautiful natural produce, I love the fact that you're sharing the information on how to do this with others.
You know, Alan, I really love doing that. I like to try to give back what other people have taught me and what I've learned from other people over the years. And I just love it when somebody else starts their own business, or even if they're just starting their own indoor garden for their family.
Right, right.
I think that's just awesome.
Very good. Well, keep up the great work. Thanks a lot.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
When it comes to preservation and beautification, American Bloom is proving that flowers of all colors are really green at heart.
Well, American Bloom is a national awards program and has been operating for 11 years now, and we have participated in Fayetteville all 11 years.
Now, I assume that there are certain criteria that American Bloom follows, and then these cities or communities are judged, aren't they?
Well, there are 6 criteria, and judges are here for 2 days. The criteria are floral displays, landscaped areas, urban forestry, heritage preservation, environmental awareness, and also overall impression.
So we're here at the beautiful square in Fayetteville, and I'm just curious, under America in Bloom, what criteria would this particular project relate to?
Well, the square solves a number of criteria issues. We have the landscaped areas. We also have the floral displays. The old post office is over 100 years old, so we meet the heritage display.
Gerald, I have always been inspired by this garden here at the square in Fayetteville. It's really quite amazing.
Oh, it's a beautiful garden, and it's about 40 years old.
I can't believe that. It's just amazing.
And it's really been a centerpiece for the community here on the downtown square.
Gerald, here it is, mid-October, and it's still showing out with lots of color.
Oh, yes. This is a garden. The gardeners do a wonderful job of keeping this looking good. They rely on a lot of foliage color, which carries the plants planting through the summer.
Yeah, I think that's a great lesson for gardeners of any level of experience to remember that foliage can carry the day.
Right.
Oh, I just love this. I mean, look at this coleus. That one's called Sedona. I love that.
And then, of course, the Japanese painted fern. And
the pulmonaria or lungwort over here. And then another favorite of mine for shade is the variegated Solomon seal.
I love the look of that plant. You know, the main thing is for a garden like this, it's in a high traffic area that has a lot of visibility, so they really spend the resources to keep it looking nice, and they're not so spread out that it's too much to take care of.
Yeah, that's the beauty of this, isn't it? It's very contained.
Right, yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's very inspiring and great work with the Botanic Garden.
Okay, well, good day. Thanks a lot.
You bet.
Yeah.
Why I'm enthusiastic about the program is how it has brought the community together, and we have common goals to not only improve the beauty of the community, but also the environmental efforts.
So Cindy, I have to ask, what do you enjoy doing here at the square in Fayetteville on a Saturday?
My office was right on the square, and I really was not into gardening 20 years ago. And I used to come out and walk around on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and now I'm a plant geek.
That's marvelous. All this beauty is infectious, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Okay.
You know, it's really important for me to take an organic approach to my garden. It all starts with the soil. It's important for me to work in lots of organic material like humus as well as organic fertilizers. And then once the plants are planted and I have to start controlling those little pests like insects, well, I take an organic approach to dealing with them as well. So to help reduce the impact of insects on my plants in an eco-friendly way, I sometimes use predator insects such as ladybugs, but also use an organic insecticide to prevent these little bugs from eating all those yummy vegetables that are meant for my table. This stuff is great because by completely covering the plant surfaces, it creates a repellent barrier to most insects. The natural metabolite in this spray also affects the insect's hormone system. So if bugs do eat the plant, they won't be able to grow or lay eggs. So it reduces the overall insect population. You know, it makes me feel really good to take an organic approach to taking care of my garden and not use any toxic chemicals that could be harmful to my friends, family, or pets. All right, let's take these mustard greens inside and put them to work in the kitchen. This smells so good. You know, I'm just crazy about anything green, particularly leafy greens. And this mustard green hot dip is so delicious, and it's healthier than most store-bought spinach dips. You'll begin by slicing 2 heads of mustard greens into 1-inch strips. Next, heat 3 tablespoons of olive oil in a large skillet and saute the greens on medium heat for about 12 minutes until they're completely wilted. Next, you'll want to add in 1/2 can of drained artichoke hearts, 1/2 cup of roasted red peppers, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1 teaspoon of freshly cracked black pepper. Then cook an additional 7 minutes. Next, place the vegetable mixture into a food processor and combine with 5 ounces of Italian cheese herb Philadelphia cooking cream, 4 ounces of firm tofu that's been cubed and pressed, 1/2 red onion finely diced, then 1 tablespoon each of dried basil, oregano, and thyme, and then add 1 teaspoon of salt. Then you'll want to pulse this until it's thoroughly combined. Place the mixture into a small baking dish with about 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. Bake in a 350-degree oven for 20 minutes until the cheese on top is golden brown. Give this mustard greens dip a try. They'll be glad you did. There's more garden style just after the break. In the heart of Kansas City, you'll find an urban space that's taking resource conservation to a whole new level. Gene, this is quite a project. In fact, it would be considered, I guess, a model project, wouldn't it?
This is kind of really a demonstration piece of how municipalities and communities can look at a piece of property that they need to stabilize or do something with or maybe beautify.
Sure, sure.
And in our
Make
case,
useful.
Make useful. We wanted to kind of capture the water that was falling around the site and on the site and contain that, filter it, and utilize that.
Sure.
And from that, we decided to grow vegetables.
So Gene, how large is this site?
It's about 1.5 acres. From an average rainfall, it's about 1 million gallons.
Really? Yeah, for this size property.
For the size of property.
Wow, that's a lot of water.
Well, to be specific, it's also capturing the street runoff as well.
I see. Which is a big problem in a lot of cities, isn't it?
Correct. When that runoff goes into the sewer system, it becomes a problem.
So let's back up. This was a vacant lot, if you will, an underutilized resource that a corporation owned and came to you all and came to the community and said, let's do something beneficial with it.
That's correct. And their initial thought was to do a rain garden. And so a rain garden at its most simplistic is a depression that's going to hold water for a period of time. And it's also filtering that water that runs through it. And so we utilize that saying, well, if we make our border porous and bring in some street water that's filled with heavy metals and salts and that sort of thing.
Especially that first flush after a rain.
That first flush. We filter that, capture it, and utilize that.
Which takes us to the next component of this, which is the energy.
Correct. And so to offset that power consumption of those two pumps, we've introduced some photovoltaic panels.
You've got them mounted on this really cool building here behind us.
That's right. And those are grid tied, and the reason they're grid tied is you don't have to maintain the battery system. So being grid tied really means that we're feeding back to the system that which we're pulling off.
Don't you love that?
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it really is.
And I believe I've heard from the ownership group that there's been maybe a $5 energy bill. So I think that's pretty good.
That's amazing. Can you imagine what it would be like across America if in every community, every vacant lot was treated this way?
It'd be amazing.
It would
Absolutely.
be tremendous. And look at all the vegetables too.
My name is Kathy Pemberton, and I coordinate the agriculture portion of 18 Broadway. This is a complete pleasure to work at a project like this, to be associated with a project like this, to work with the volunteers. The food goes to our local food bank. They seem to be very appreciative, and they help us keep track of what we harvest. There's two big holding tanks at the lower point of the project, and the water is pumped out of them. Well, the wind turbine actually powers the LED lights on the perimeter. We have volunteers from DST Systems, who owns and develops the site, and we also have volunteers from 6 other companies and organizations.
There's so many different ways we can incorporate a greener lifestyle. And hey, not only is it good for us, it's good for the planet. I hope in today's show you found some unique ways to grow, cook, and design in a way that creates a smaller carbon footprint. And if you find those ways, I'd love for you to post them on Facebook. Until next time, for Garden Style, I'm Alan Smith. Just look at these gorgeous peas. Delicious too. Garden Style's going green.
That's a good puller right there.
Pull this plant.
And action.
Give this mustard green dip a try. Whoops. Ooh. I just can't seem to get it right for y'all. I'm sorry.
There, you're going to be looking
Right. Okay. I have to tell you, I'm crazy about all things green, and that includes griefy lanes. This recipe's delicious, and it's healthier than most store-bought spinach dips. Now, for Garden Style, I'm Alan Smith.